everyone. Welcome to a very special episode of Rekieta Retardation. I have noticed that a lot of people who cover this situation, specifically Kino Casino and Null of Kiwi Farms, have kind of lost the plot when it comes to certain things. There's a lot of conflicting information out there. We don't know the whole story. And of course, the people who told us the story to begin with were unreliable sources of information to begin with. So it actually has been rather difficult to get to the bottom of the Drexel grooming story. Specifically, a lot of people don't know like where the story came from or how we know how it played out the way it did or what have you, right? So over the past couple of ever since I seriously started doing Rekieta retardations again, however long that's been, I've been trying to go back and find all of the find clips of Drexel talking about this. And I have had absolutely no luck at all because this was a story that was told across like several different live streams with lots of different audience members and lots of different contexts. Lots of different details were shared over like a long period of time, and people slowly started piecing together like what actually happened, right? Drexel doesn't come out and say he's a groomer, right? He doesn't come out and say he groomed this 13-year-old girl. But like the more you listen to him talk about it, the more you see him act and the more you see him like tell this story to other people, which, again, I reiterate, has happened several times, you do get this sense of how messed up it was. But because of the way it was initially presented, across a period of several months, I think, or perhaps years, a lot of people don't have all of the clips or all the information, and therefore a lot of statements that PPP and others have made are incorrect, right? Of course, I don't want to like accuse them of, being malicious or making stuff up because, the general concept is correct. Drexel groomed a 13-year-old girl, but a lot of the details have gotten muddied. And my goal with this video is to kind of emphasize just how these stories, how this fact about Drexel, about what he did to this girl and her mother became known. And to do that, I had to scrounge for a clip where he talks about this. It took me a long time, but I finally found one clip where he talks about this situation, right? And I really want you to pay attention to like what he's talking about here and just see how unsettling it is, right? The implications of what he's talking about, because I will be walking you through it, but I do want you to think for yourself and just notice how he's manipulating the people around him. Like notice how he's behaving, the things he's talking about. Like you really do get this sense that like, wow, this is someone who does this kind of thing all the time, right? It is unfortunate, but again, this is something that has meant a lot to me for a long time, and I'm very glad to finally showcase you a clip in which Drexel, in his own words, describes the fallout of the grooming situation.
I mean, that ain't the crowd I would normally be here to watch, but I was like, yeah. But at the end of the day, look, at the end of the day, Nick, what matters most is that Hulk smashing went on. Because going to this didn't affect anything. So Keon, look, I don't know if Nick told you the story about what happened. So my sub is the daughter of my longtime friend.
Okay, so this is a part of the lore that tends to get muddied a little bit, that people don't tend to remember in the current era. This was something that people used to talk about, that people used to acknowledge, but with all that's happened over the past couple of years, it's kind of been lost in the shuffle. Drexel talks about this girl all the time. Whenever he refers to his sub, the specific girl that he talks about near constantly in a lot of these live streams, he's referring to her specifically. And I do think that's very important to know, because when you go back through all these live streams, like he doesn't necessarily talk about the story where he met her all the time, right? He doesn't necessarily talk about the context as to like how he groomed her and stuff like that, right? What Drexel does is that he just refers to her as his sub and kind of doesn't really elaborate on who she is or whatever. Like a lot of people had the impression he was talking about like different people, right? Because how he always presents himself as being like, oh, this alpha Chad that bangs all these all of these hot single moms, right, that are frustrated with their soy boy husbands, right? The reality is quite different, right? Like the reality seems to be that like he hyperfixated on this one girl specifically, and that girl, this specific story is the one that he was most proud of in the past couple of years, right? It's the one he talks about the most. It's the one that comes up the most. But again, he talks about the girl more than any other chick, any other single chick I've ever seen from him, right? In like all these years of watching these podcasts, right? Like he is very, very attached to this girl, and I don't know if like they're still together or if like something happened, but this is something I would like other people to look into. Is what other stories has he told about this person?
The mom found out. Shit got real. Now she was like, "Trex, promise me."
Is this sub over 18?
Yes. She's 25.
Okay, good.
She goes.
But Keon, I saw the text messages. It wasn't good.
It wasn't good, bro.
It wasn't good, buddy.
It wasn't good. So
You can DM them to me later on Twitter. It's okay.
oh, okay. You have to. It's pure comedy. So basically, the mom wanted some D, and she got mad. That's basically what ended up happening.
There is some speculation on whether or not Drexel was with this woman or not. And going by what Drexel says, he was not. But the way he tells this story, like, oh, she wanted it, but I wouldn't give it to her. But you were hanging around her anyway. You were going on family vacations with her. You were doing this. You were doing that. Null keeps talking about like the daughter getting her first Mouse ears from him. Like, I don't know why Null is so fixated on that, but he was around a lot is my impression. And he always refers to her as his friend. So like, okay, why was he around her so much? Like, was he deliberately targeting the girl then? Like, again, we don't know how he typically operates. I would say this is very, very similar to his typical pattern where he like just does whatever he can to smash whoever he can, right? Like he thinks that makes him some big impressive Giga Chad, but in reality it comes off as pretty pathetic.
And
So
I
who's
go
mad?
out there, and so we go to the voyeurism show, whatever, right? And the guilt was gone, Nick. The guilt was gone. Listen, we got back to the spot, but I was like this. Well, I mean, the cat's out of the hat now. It's out of the rabbit's out of the hat, or the cat's out of the bag. I'm just gonna smash.
How proud he is about this. Like, look at how proud he is admitting that he groomed a 13-year-old girl to this audience of degenerates, right? Like, oh, look what I did. Like, I'm completely shameless. Oh, man, I'm such a Giga Chad. Like, that is his legit mindset in the heat of the moment. He legit thought this was a Drexel W. He legit thought he had gotten away with it. He legit thought that this wasn't strange at all, that he was just gonna do his thing and everything would be okay, right? Because he's Drexel and women are always the problem in every single one of his sexual encounters, right? Like, it is absurd the lengths he goes to try and excuse his behavior, to write it off as not being creepy, to try and pretend as if what he did wasn't deplorable as anything. Like, it was just awful what he did, and I really don't think even now that he gets enough flack for this.
So Drex, how could you? Nick, there was no shame. Like, you remember before I told you it was awkward because I was like, I shouldn't be doing this and blah blah blah. Nick, when you reach that level of no shame, you're like, well, so yeah, I taught her what a standing 69 was. She didn't know about a standing 69, so now she knows. And I will
Okay, I
return
need more
back
information.
there.
How big is this woman?
What's that?
How tall is this woman that you're standing
She's
69?
average. She's 5'5".
Well,
High
that
five? Yeah,
is
sounds
a
about right. 5'5".
logistics issue. I
Oh,
don't know how that works.
Okay, I have
No.
some.
Nick interrupted the conversation here, so it's gonna be a while before we swing right back to the sub story. Again, it's been kind of a nightmare listening to this 7-hour live stream, picking out all the little instances of Drexel bringing this up. But like, just listen to him talk about this. Listen to how much he emphasizes how much he had to teach this girl about like depraved sexual acts, right? The BDSM stuff is the stuff that everyone fixates on, but there's quite a bit more that everyone kind of overlooks. Like I don't necessarily know what he's talking about when he says like the standing 69 thing, and I'm kind of happy I don't know, but like I can't imagine it's good. I can't imagine it's wholesome just by like the definition of it, right? Just by like the sound of it. Again, there are lots of other things that he did with this girl. It's not just the BDSM thing. I do think that is what I want to emphasize here before we move on to the next section. But that is, in and of itself, really disgusting. Like again, this is a grooming situation, right? The girl didn't come to Drexel like with this like, oh, I want to do this. Like no, he led her on. He made her this way, right? He is the problem in this relationship.
This goes back to in Portland. I'm lying in bed with the sub, and we have this conversation. So she asked me point blank.
I'm sorry. I love watching the chat catch up because they're 20 seconds behind. All of a sudden, I see grab bitches by the throat.
No, so true facts, man. We're lying in bed together, and then she broaches the topic, like, well, Drex, why is it that you are, because she knows, she can sense my body language, right? Like, because of Me Too, I've told you, Nick, there's a new rule book out there. There's a new playbook for men to follow. Like, basically, you got to kind of ease back. You can't be, you can't grab by the throat now with Me Too. But
you grab by the throat, you just got to wear a baseball mitt so it's softer.
Of course, and wait till they send you the text saying it's okay, and the video, right?
And sign the document.
And fingerprint scan, retina scan. So she asked me about this, and I said, look, here's the deal.
I'll be right back.
Go ahead. I let her know what the deal was. I said, look, when it comes to this modern effed up era of Me Too, I said, you're at a point now as a man, I can't have women at my house because now I don't have a witness, right? So when people say, well, Drex, how do you always wind up at like lifestyle parties and stuff? I go, because then there's witnesses. You need white women to be witnesses. So
That's
Keon,
actually really smart.
listen, I know about the scene in LA, right? You know these clubs, Joy, Fads down in San Diego, Freedom Acres. You know about these places. You have to be around women in order to smash women. And not only that, they act as a natural protection against false accusations. Because so I told her, I said, imagine being me. I'm the big, scary black guy. If I invite a girl over to my house or I go to her house and we Netflix and chill, I go ahead and smash and kill it. And then I'm thinking like, well, that was a good night. I'm going to go ahead and bounce. All of a sudden, later on, and you've seen this, Keon, that's why, if you notice, every time there's a rape case, the guy's always going, it was consensual, right? Because the dude is going, it was consensual. Like, well, she didn't say no. And it usually what happens is her reputation was tarnished, or she doesn't like the way you treat her, like what happened to Mike Tyson. These girls are coming up to dudes' hotel rooms at 2 a.m, getting smashed. And then what happens? Oh, that's right. He raped me. Did he though? So Keon, when it comes to tying chicks up,
I come back to this.
I know, right? Look, so
I come back to, listen, Keon, when it comes to tying chicks up, this is my return.
So Keon, we talked about it, right? Because look, as a sub, like I said, she.
Oh, I'm not a sub. What the fuck are you talking about?
I'm not talking about you. Damn. So Keon, here's what's crazy. She started asking about that, right? I said, imagine if the things that we do, if I did it to someone who I haven't known for almost 13 years now.
So just to recap, right? If you were doing the math, Drexel claimed the woman was 25, right? I've known you for 12 years. So, of course, subtract 25 by 12, 13-year-old girl. Now, I think in the heat of the moment, people didn't really catch on to this. Drexel didn't really explain himself. Maybe he was talking about a different person, right? But again, this is how this stuff typically happened on streams. Drexel would talk about this chick in excruciating detail, clearly indicating that she was his favorite. But the reason she was his favorite was because he groomed her when she was so young.
Nick, do you know what kind of trouble you can get into? Oh yeah, tie me up, Drex. Yeah, sure. Next thing you know, woo, 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 damn. Now I'm another statistic.
Has it ever crossed his mind that maybe the reason why he's so concerned about getting into legal trouble or to getting into altercations with the police or getting into like being accused of doing something to some chick is because he's actually doing these kind of things all the time? And then he actually is kind of a problem, kind of a menace to society. Like, what exactly has he done that's so legal and ethical, right? Everything he talks about when it comes to like, oh, you got to have white women there to vouch for you and stuff like that. Like, it's all manipulating the people around him. Like, I've talked about this when it comes to Nick and his relationship, because it seems like their entire friendship is based around this idea that they like cover for each other. Drexel will do this thing where like he leans onto Nick where he needs like a conservative white guy to like vouch for him online, while Nick needs him to like enable his degeneracy. And they weirdly kind of balance each other out in that respect. And we've seen this happen. Like, a big reason why a lot of people thought Drexel was this normal person for the longest time was because Nick was coming out and vouching for him so much on streams. Even now, he'll do that. But, like, they were successfully able to gaslight people for years and years by putting on this act like, oh man, these women are the problem, like, oh, all the bitches I talk to be crazy and shit like that. But in reality, you yourself are the problem, right? Like, again, I've mentioned this before, but like, if every woman you encounter is like causing you problems, like, you yourself are the problem, right? And it seems like Drexel is incapable or unwilling to kind of admit that to himself, right? Like, every time it's just like, oh, they're all the same. You got to smash and dash. You got to do this. You got to remain non-committal, bro. Like, don't get married. Like, just go MGTOW forever, bro. The legal system is out to get us, man. But like, in reality, it's just a cope to justify his degenerate worldview. Like, the way he conducts himself and the way he acts, the way he treats other people, right? Like, this was his friend's daughter, right? That he groomed to be his BDSM sex slave, that he saved from like, I don't know I haven't seen the clip where he claims this, but I know it's real, where he claims he saved her from being like sexually trafficked or something. Like, I think that was his justification as to why he had to introduce her to BDSM. Because, oh man, if she pursued the interest on her own, she would have gotten sexually trafficked by some of these clubs, right? Like, that was his claim, right? Like, oh, I had to do it to protect her. I had to like step up and like tie her up myself. So some degenerate that I didn't trust didn't ruin her or like give her a bad experience or whatever. It's like, it's a cope, right? That's kind of my thinking on this, is that like all of his copes about like how everything is out to get him, how the legal system hates, like, it's all just a cope to justify the fact that he is a terrible person, right? It's all just an excuse to enable his own degeneracy perpetually, right? He's not the problem. Everyone else is.
Nah, fam. Nope. Yeah, we can play Smash Bros in bed. We can watch The Office or whatever she wants to watch. Listen, you're gonna get dick down.
Smash Bros.
Hey, look, man, we're cool like that. Real talk, man. Because
that's the advantage of a sub. Bitch, we're playing Smash Bros.
You ain't right. No, but here's the thing though. when you're cool, when you've known someone for so long, like I said, 12 plus years, you have a different level of familiarity, right? So you sit back, you can play Smash. You can go to no one else can convince me to go to voyeurism. You see,
Okay, so I just sat here all night listening to this 7-hour live stream, right? I wasted my entire night to watch this and piece together the narrative here because he mentions her throughout this. He does talk about her several times throughout this. I actually ended up cutting a lot of mentions of her out of this video because some of them were just being used to point to some kind of other point or whatever. It wasn't a big deal. You can check the original video if you want to. You can check it yourself if you want a full analysis of this. But again, let's reiterate here. We need to talk about this, like how he so openly brags about knowing her for so long, 13 years, man. Like he says this over and over and over again, right? She really is his favorite. I can't think of any other chick he talks about this much.
Richmeister84 says, question for Drex. After nailing your friend's daughter, do you fear a friend will do the same to you with your daughter when she's of age? Will you accept she's an adult that can make her own decisions, or are you mad at the friend?
No, because Drex is a giant and he will kick the shit out of that friend. It's not an issue.
yeah. So we had. Remember I told you she roasted me for 4 hours at Porter Creek, right?
Yeah. You took her to Porter Creek?
Yeah, well, that's where she wanted to meet.
Did you pay?
All she got was a drink. Yeah, I paid.
She sat at Porter Creek for 4 hours and she didn't have anything but a drink?
Nothing. She said she couldn't eat. She was throwing up and stuff.
Get a salad. What is wrong with her? Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
Listen, man. Nick, I'm me. So, I took that one on the chin. I'm like, yeah, I know. It's your daughter. I get it, right?
Yeah.
And the question was, what, like, did I feel guilty?
What would you have not bought her at Porter Creek? That's the real question.
I mean, she started talking something crazy. I don't know. Fuck no. You know what I'm saying? She is like, give me a,
But she gets an appetizer, a steak, and a dessert. After what had happened, you going to buy it?
After I would.
I would. Mend bridges,
yeah,
right?
Mend bridges, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I tried to mend bridges even after all that this happened. And
you're like, look, you didn't buy anything at Porter Creek, but I'll take you to McDonald's.
There is no shame. There is no consideration for the mother's feelings. There is no thought to the fact that he ruined a supposedly long-term friendship over sleeping with her daughter, right? He laughs and jokes about it on live stream over and over and over again. Like, isn't that like the behavior of someone really, truly unhinged? Someone who really has no capacity to have empathy for other people or really have any consideration for what he's doing at all. Like, it is insane to me watching this and just seeing this play out and just see how many of these guys just laugh this off, because this was something that absolutely 100% should not have happened. And if it did, people should have been criticizing him for it. In this very live stream, I saw them, this very same group of people attack Josh, the fourth guy that you don't see on screen. Like, at one point, he was dating a 17-year-old when he was in law school or college or something like that, and they went after him for that. Like, it's weird when, like, it's okay when Drexel does it, but that's exactly how this played out. Like, for the longest time, it was okay when Drexel did it.
Because I've known her so long, obviously, you're doing things that would be considered, like, softer, right? Obviously, playing video games is just kind of like a neutral action, you know what I'm saying? But, like cuddling or, like, watching movies, just hanging out, right, is considered a softer action.
Yeah.
It is the contrast, the direct counterbalance to the rough stuff. You have to have both. You can't have too much of one. If you're too soft, she's kind of like, this guy's kind of soft. Like,
I don't think women want a soft guy. They want the bad boy to have the soft side.
Soft side, correct.
Huge difference. Huge difference.
You're right. Yeah.
Like, will you call me whatever I ask you to call me? Will you slap me from time to time or whatever? And then will you watch Netflix with me on a Thursday?
Yep.
Or whatever.
Well,
that's the difference.
The reason why it works for us is because, like I said, we've known each other so long. So now I will say this though, Nick. Has she been someone that I just like met, like, in terms of her, her adult life, like, because I mean, most people, they meet someone they're meeting a fully grown person. They don't even know this person's background, right? So, if you meet someone and she's, say, 20 years old, right? 20, let's say 22, 23. The person is whoever you meet them as at that point, right? You don't know their background. But when you've known someone since they were 13, the dynamic is different because how you view them is different. So you can do the softer things because of the nature of your relationship. And Nick, every one of them, what's crazy? When her mom talked to me the second time, the first time she just basically tried to rip me a new one, right? The second time she talked to me, we sit down and talk. I was actually in the car, and we have a talk. And so Nick, she couldn't believe her daughter was a sub.
Yeah.
She's like, that just doesn't fit her at all. 'Cause she's strong. I was like, that's what makes her a sub.
And here we get a little bit of Drexel's mindset. The reason why he favors her over other girls, the reason why he talks about her so much, the reason why he tells so many stories about her. I had to sit through like several tonight. He mentioned her offhand several times. Like, the reason he talks about her so much is that he feels like he can kind of relax around her. He kind of feels as if she's completely under his control, because he's the one who groomed her from a young age, right? He feels like he's her daddy, He feels as if she's not willing or able to contest him with any of his nonsense, right? I listened to several stories tonight where he describes how he explains to her, his worldview and how he doesn't trust women and how he has to jump through all these hoops to smash all these broads and stuff like that. I heard him talk about how he's hanging around her friend group, who are of course 20-year-olds in the Portland area. I've listened to him talk about this, and it just comes off as very, very, very unsettling, right? It comes off as just there is this very sinister undertone as to what's going on here, right? And it's not apparent, especially in this environment. Like I said, this is a half an hour long video. I had to compile this from a 7-hour stream, right? This massive long thing that no sane person would ever sit through to discern any top secret information that's hidden in plain sight. If anyone were to do that, he would be the most obsessed, insane person out there. Yeah, I had to do it. Okay, I had to sit through here and listen to all this stuff to compile it to give you a bit of idea of how Drexel operates, how he views things, how this relationship with this woman, was treated on stream, right? There are lots of other examples and a lot of streams earlier than this because I know she was brought up before this. You can kind of tell that they've talked about it before. Keon was familiar with it. Nick, of course, was familiar with it. Don't let Rekieta try to gaslight you into thinking he wasn't aware of what Drexel did or anything, because Drexel was bragging about this on stream all the time, near constantly, right? And there was one bit where Nick got up and walked away so he could I don't know, get a drink or something. But for most of it, he was right there listening, laughing along harder than anyone, right? Nick enabled this behavior, and that is a reason why it is a problem. It is a reason why we're talking about this. So now, why Drexel is such a contested figure in the community, more than any of these other personalities that have all been slowly distancing themselves from Rekieta as he's established more and more what his true nature is like, right? Drexel has not changed at all in the past several years, right? All he's doing is just not talking as much about some of the more underhanded things he's done, right? Because people have finally begun to see through his act, right? He's not some alpha giga chad black bull, right? He's someone who takes advantage of the people around him, someone who takes advantage of girls who trust him, someone who presents himself as this cool, upstanding individual, but in reality is a kind of parasite that just leeches off of people's goodwill, right? How much does he talk bad? Did I hear him talk badly about black women in this stream? How much did I hear him talk about, uh, women in general, right? How much did I see him cope and justify his actions and the actions of others, and just it it was pathetic, honestly, watching this with like more of an understanding of who this guy is. And I hate to admit that I did watch this when it first aired. I don't remember if I watched it live. I don't think so, but I definitely watched like the pre-recording sometime after, and I don't think I thought anything of it at the time. Right? I do think with the way it's presented, if you're not actively thinking about like what Drex is saying, in regard to like the girls' ages and what was going on, like this stream is 7 hours long. Like I think what typically happened for me was that I would like sit and watch for like the first 3 or 4 hours or so, wait for them to cover like the actual big news and then just leave once it started to wind down. Because I don't remember the second half of the stream. Right. I probably dipped out around the same time that Keon and Josh did. Right. That seems about right. I yeah, it really sucks. Like, yeah, even now, looking back on this, like this was actually a really fun stream to watch. At the first part of it, Keon's funny. They make funny observations. They have witty banter, but it all feels kind of shallow now. Like it all feels kind of like hollow. It all feels like this isn't how things actually are. And I do think that's the big thing to take away from this. Just like how Rekieta isn't a real lawyer, Drexel isn't a real pickup artist. He's not a real black bull. He has to take advantage of the people around him, usually men, to gaslight them into thinking that he's like a way bigger deal than he actually is, right? And I do think that's kind of the mindset he's in when he talks about these stories with other men, is to try and impress them, try to present himself as being way more sexually successful than they are. It's an ego thing for him. And with that, I am going to put the finishing touches on my edit, and I am going to post this on YouTube because I am completely done. I've been working on this all night, and I'm just like, ugh, this was a nightmare. But thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time on the next Rekieta Retardation.